Like, whoa, dude, this is the Head Smack Podcast with Chris Marroy.
You are listening to Conversations with Misfits, Mavericks, and Trailblazers.
Hey, you're listening to the Head Smack Podcast. Great to have you along today. I'm excited about my guest, Chris Marroy. He is right now in LA, right? In Hollywood, California. And Chris, it's so good to have you on, man.
Good to be here. I am actually a block off of Hollywood Boulevard, so I am
nice.
in Hollywood proper.
So you get all the nice smells and sounds of Hollywood.
Yeah. We're smack dab in the middle of Hollywood Boulevard and the rich neighborhood. So, either way you go, it's really good. Yeah.
Nice. Well, Chris, I actually met about 7 years ago, seven years ago or so. And we're actually working on a commercial, and we're working with a NFL, quarterback, famous person, Hall of Famer, had a commercial that we're doing. And so we needed somebody that could play against a huge celebrity like that. And so we had sent out word, the agency that I was at the time, and looking for somebody to play a insurance agent. And so we got lots of reels back, a lot of footage back, and Chris submitted one of those and quickly stood out from everybody else. His delivery and expressions and everything was everything that we wanted it to be, because it was a little on the lighter side of things. And Chris brought a level of comedy and just expressions and everything to it that made it an easy decision. And so it was great meeting you then and working with you, Chris. And you've had quite an adventure to where you're at in the smellyverse of Hollywood. And but that journey was a little bit of a longer journey to get there. It wasn't. You woke up one day and there you were. So tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of as early on as you want to start, and how that journey has been for you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I really appreciate those kind words. That commercial was a real thrill because, like you said, you're playing against this big superstar NFL quarterback, and then you find me, the exact opposite of a superstar NFL quarterback. I was like a duck on the pond, man. I was just trying to keep up. I had so much fun. But yeah, I'm originally from the New Orleans area, and I grew up, a hyper kid who loved Jim Carrey. And so my parents decided we need to focus this energy somewhere. So let's put him in theater. And that's where it all started. And I did theater all through elementary, junior high, high school. I studied theater in college in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, where I met you.
Yeah.
And then from there, I sort of stayed in the New Orleans area. And I knew at that point that I had to take a risk on being an actor because it had been where my life was leading me to. And so I figured it was better to start in a smaller market, build up a little bit of a career, sort of feel what the industry is like. And it was really beneficial for me. I got to put some credits on my resume and, earn my chops, so to speak.
Right.
And then,
right.
The plan was never really to move out to Hollywood or New York or anything. I was content in being in New Orleans for a long, long time. It's a great community. I had the opportunity to do lots of theater down there, which I really loved. And then one day, my best friend, who I sort of grew up with, said, "Hey, I'm moving out to LA to be a film composer." I was like, "Great, you have fun. I'll miss you." And I was thinking about it a couple weeks later, and I actually did have a head smack moment where I was driving across Lake Pontchartrain and the sun was setting and it was beautiful. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have a dog. I have nothing tethering me to this moment right now other than my free will. And so I was like, let's take a chance. And so I called him up and said, "Hey, I'm coming too." And so we did. And that was 7 years ago. And we moved out here without very much at all.
Wow.
We gave ourselves a week at an Airbnb to find a place to live and a job.
Wow.
I would not recommend that plan to anyone.
Sounds like the typical story, though, is just kind of go out there and just kind of follow a passion.
yeah, the entertainment industry is sort of always a crapshoot, so you have to have a little
Yeah,
bit of that gambler spirit, I'd
right.
say. But since then, I think it's paid off pretty well. The industry has ebbs and flows, but I've gotten the hang of the town, and as smelly as it can be sometimes, I really do love it out here. It's nice, and I've gotten the opportunity to work some on some beloved shows and meet some heroes of mine. So it was really special.
Yeah, so let's go back a little bit to New Orleans. And so the work that you did there, you said you did a lot of theater there.
Hmm.
And I know New Orleans for a while there had a lot of stuff happening when it came to movies, TV,
Yeah.
and all that. Is that where you first started plugging into that, or did you have opportunities to, go out to LA before that?
No, I really did cut my teeth just in New Orleans. About halfway through college, I had a professor, Sean Boyd, who was a really big influence on me, and we've still remained close to this day. Now we're just buddies. Um, but he was the cooler professor, who was working in film and TV and teaching at the same time.
Mm,
And he made it attainable. Um, in a way that like didn't intimidate me, which I think when you're younger you think about the big move to either New York or LA, and it's just
right.
this sort of ethereal wish that some people have, but you don't know how to actually do it. So be able to sort of take it step by step and really slowly and build a foundation in the craft, I think,
Mm,
uh,
yeah.
then made it possible for me to then later on say, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go for it. I know this is what I like. I haven't been scared off yet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna I'm gonna shoot for it. So
Yeah.
I started at the lowest rank on the totem pole, and I just started doing extra work,
Yeah.
like my sophomore year of college, on a couple of productions that were shooting in New Orleans at the time. If you see the lauded Green Lantern starring Ryan Reynolds, I'm actually an extra in that. Uh,
Oh, how cool. How
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
that was like my first big picture. We went to the movies and I said, "Hey, there I am. That's cool."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of funny. One of the times that we went to New Orleans, there was a TV pilot being filmed there, and
yeah,
so we kind of checked out the set and kind of saw what was going on. And it's so funny because we walked down this alleyway, and in the alleyway was a cluster of extras, just kind
yeah,
of there, eating snacks, just kind of waiting. They're all in like period dress and stuff, and it's like they were
yeah.
just kind of waiting for that call, and they
Just
just
this
looked
side of
miserable.
herding
Yeah,
cattle, really. I mean,
yeah,
just
yeah. So you started off with theater.
yeah,
After your parents realized they needed to move that energy in some place.
yeah,
So why like go into the big screen? Why follow that? Why not just stay with theater? Because there are a lot of actors that are like that's selling out. Theater is a more noble art. And
yeah.
so. So what drew you away from theater to try something, to get in front of a camera?
I think really it comes out of just the admiration of everything that I watched. I mean, I grew up addicted to movies. Like I said, I would watch Jim Carrey, Mrs. Doubtfire. I would watch probably every week with Robin Williams, and just
Yeah,
the ability to reach millions and instead of
right,
dozens,
right.
which which can sometimes be the curse of theater. Like I've seen some incredible theater productions, and they are, instantly palpable and powerful because you're in the room and you're in the moment, and it's wonderful. And I really do miss it. Like I haven't had the opportunity to do a play since I left New Orleans 7 years
Oh
ago,
wow.
and it's really something that I miss that connection.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Because
but
it's instant feedback, right? You
it is,
immediately like if you did something that was supposed to be funny and people actually laughed, then you're like, nailed it. Like
yeah,
I did well.
totally,
And if it's supposed to be funny and nobody laughed, then you're like, wow, I really missed that one. So
yeah,
it's the instant feedback that you just don't get when it comes to cinema. I guess the director or whatever can say, hey,
yeah,
great take, let's move on. But it's a
totally.
very
I
different
mean,
experience.
the best you get is looking at the playback in Video Village, and you've got producers around you being like, yeah, was that good, 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 okay, moving on, moving on. moving on is your applause at that point. Um, but yeah, it's I also really just miss the community, I think, of being in a town and putting on productions with the connection that you have with an audience, and getting that immediate response is obviously invaluable as a performer, because you start to really pick up on what works and what doesn't. Whereas with film, someone's going to tell you if that doesn't work or doesn't.
Right,
Much more
right, right.
direct. But it doesn't have the same oomph. And I think the biggest thing, the biggest difference for me in theater, besides the live audiences, is building that community, having the time to build sort of a group of friends that you get to then play with on a repeated basis,
Right.
especially in a community like New Orleans. It's so close knit, and there's several different theater companies, but they all sort of interchange and work with each other, which was really
Right.
special.
Right, and I'm guessing that if you're part of a series or a TV show, you kind of develop a level of camaraderie with your co-stars and with other people on the show that you
Yeah,
don't always get if you're just got a one episode piece that you do, and so there is a difference. So for the person that might be listening and they're like, well, I've always wanted to be an actor. I've always wanted to go out to Hollywood. What are some of
yeah,
those lessons that you've learned along the way? You've been doing this 7 years, so obviously, you've kind of gotten past that initial thing where a lot of people give up and go back home.
yeah.
So you're making it. You're doing well. You've kind of established yourself there. So what was that journey like for the person that is considering it? What are some insights that you've gained from your experience so far?
I would give yourself more than a week to find a place to live. That's number one. Have a better plan. Have some money saved up. But then really, it's like setting roots anywhere. I think you have to be open to whatever opportunities come your way, but you also really do have to put yourself out there in order to meet
Right.
people and connections and things like that. When I got here, I had a very loose connection to Second City, the improv comedy school, and so they had a location at the time out here on Hollywood Boulevard, and so I just approached them, and I was interested in just being an intern in
Hmm.
exchange for doing classes. So I did that for about a year, and I would wake up early and go down to Hollywood Boulevard and open up the
Yeah.
gates and say goodnight to the people who were just going to bed. Um,
Whatever
similar
it
to that
takes.
as New Orleans, whatever it
Yeah.
takes. But you then get to take classes, and to harken back to the aspect of community that you get from theater. That's sort of where you build your community out here, is in the classroom and taking consistent classes.
Hmm.
Um, that I've found thus far. I
Right.
haven't yet been a series regular on anything.
Right.
I'm the
Right.
guy in the suit or in the background who gives you the line and keeps the story moving.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but yeah, like, knowing your craft is obviously a huge part of it. So you need to keep studying and keep learning. And film and TV is a very different animal than theater. Um,
Right.
so just learning how to manipulate that, and then after a while, it becomes like any place else. Most of your days are admittedly unremarkable. You've got the 9 to 5 or whatever day
Mm.
job you have. For me, it was waiting tables in various cafes and restaurants, and it's a noble profession. I was just not very good at it. I would pray for the slow nights, because then I would get to
Yeah.
talk to my tables and take my
Right.
time. So when the rush came through, my heart started beating, and and then all the while I was pursuing other passions such as graphic design.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I had heard repeatedly in my life that people say, if you're going to be an actor, you can't have a backup plan. It has to be all or nothing.
Right.
I've never really bought into that. I think as an actor, it's so ethereal what we do. Like, you can't just be an actor all the time.
Right.
You,
Right.
you have to be a
Right.
you have to be a person, and
Yeah.
hopefully you get to be an artist of any kind. And I think
Right.
that one feeds the other.
Yeah.
So I have this sort of self-started graphic artist designer career over the past 12 years that when I got to LA, I suddenly looked back and I was like, oh yeah, I'm a graphic designer. I guess I can do that instead of waiting tables.
And that's been going well for you?
Yeah,
Good.
I got very lucky. The the funniest, story that came out of that was I was waiting tables right before the pandemic hit. And one of my regulars at the restaurant is the artistic director of a theater out here, a performing arts venue. And about 2 months after the pandemic, I, like a lot of people, I was on unemployment and just like twiddling my thumb saying, okay, what do I do now? Like, what am I going to do?
Right, right.
And I got an email out of the blue because I had given him one of my pens, which I'll show you, which this is audio, so no one will be able to see it. But when I
Well, I
was
might actually do a YouTube version of this
there
as
you
well,
go.
so
There
that
you
I'll
go.
get to see it. Yeah.
When I was waiting tables, another server had this idea, and I admittedly stole it and admitted it to him. But I got pins with my name and my website printed on them,
Nice,
so that
nice.
every time I dropped a check, it's Hollywood. You never know. So
Yeah,
would give the pen and say, "Hey, keep the pen." You never know. It's a good pen
yeah.
too. It writes really well. Anyway,
Yeah,
he
those are
kept
some of
it.
my favorites. I actually have a whole bunch of them myself.
There you go.
Yeah.
Um,
And so it sounds like it's very much, I guess it's, you coming from the South, it's very similar to the South. It's like really who you know. It's like these random,
yeah,
sometimes conversations, these random connections, these random meetings, and just letting people know who you are and what you're about can lead you to things that surprise you. You just never know who you're talking to. And so it sounds like it's kind of similar in that industry there, which you're totally prepared for, because of the coming from the South, is just
yeah,
just being that person.
yeah. And I think this is a fun gimmick, but I was never trying to sell myself really as an actor or a designer. It's something to put myself out there.
Right.
And I think there is a difference of having that genuine connection and meeting great folks like yourself on set one day and then being able to stay friends over the past 7 years.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's, don't sell, just show and just do your
Yeah.
work and do the best you can and be a nice person. And I think good things will come to you.
So after moving to Hollywood, how soon after you got there were you like, I think this could work? Like, was there a point that you were like on the verge of heading back to New Orleans, or was there a point where before that happened, something gave you hope that said, you know what, I think I can make a go of this?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people who move here, I get the sort of, freshman freakouts of, okay, this is maybe bigger than I wanted to bite off. Um, I was lucky enough that I did have those commercials that we
Right.
shot
Yeah.
because I was able to then, have something really professional to show off to different agencies and things. And I actually bagged a commercial agent about 5 months after moving out here, which was really nice. And that,
Well,
it wasn't a lot of calls right out of the gate, but it was nice to be able to like have something to say, okay, someone's on my side.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and then my agent, who I had in Louisiana, actually set me up with a manager who was out here at the time. And they started getting me auditions for film and TV, but also helping me to find a theatrical and film agent out here as well.
Yeah.
So, it's really nice to just connect and have your people to be able to not do it alone. Once I
Right.
had that team, I think that was the moment I said, okay, I am here now. I am established. I have roots as thin as they are. I have my roots.
Right. Right.
Let's
Right.
keep going and just keep your head down and see what happens. And, eventually the auditions come and
Yeah.
you book one and then you book another one. And it's like, wow, okay, I'm doing it. I'm
Yeah.
not top of show. I'm not number one on the call sheet, but I'm
Right.
doing the thing that I moved out here to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and every actor will have those moments of, do I want to keep doing this? Because
Right.
gray hairs
Right.
are only multiplying as as the
That
years
can be
go
taken
by.
care of. That can be taken care of.
Yeah, yeah, just for men. Um, but ultimately, I think it comes back to the love of the craft and the fact
Hmm.
that this is where the movies are made. That's
Yeah,
still the
yeah,
thing. I mean, you can find consistent work in smaller markets, Atlanta, New Orleans, but like the big stuff that you grow up watching and you really want to be a part of, it really helps to be here. So
right,
that's why I'm
right.
staying.
So what was the role that you got that you were like, oh yeah, this is the kind of thing that I moved here for? Have you gotten that role yet? Are you still kind of hanging out for that, or was there one that you said, yeah, this is cool. This is why I'm here.
I've had, I've been a lot of day player roles. So,
Hmm.
man in uniform. I played a lot of cops, doctors, pilots. Um, the pilot one was very cool because I got to
Yeah.
put on the suit and like go to a tarmac and this is my plane. That was for NCIS. I think the geekiest moment I had of just like, oh my God, this is Hollywood was for the Orville with Seth MacFarlane.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I got a one line role in that show, but I was over the moon because I get to
Yeah.
go to space. Like, are you kidding me? It turns out space is just like a warehouse lot in Burbank.
Right, right, right,
So
right.
nondescript. Like, I mean, it looks like you're pulling almost into a junkyard. And then you
Yeah.
go inside the studio and there's this entire world built and aliens walking around. And I'm like, oh my God, this is everything I want. And there's
Yes.
Beth, and he's sipping coffee and watching the monitors and executive producing like he does. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
hi, I'm a huge fan. Thank you for having me. Um,
So you
yes,
actually got to interact with him and
a little
have a
bit. Yeah.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, very brief, like when you start out, you know your place and you go
Yeah.
in and do your job. But like every set that I've been on, like, the star, the stars are there and they're welcome to like say hi. And it's
Right.
really special and sort of affirming to be like, wow, I've watched you do your thing for so long. And now I get to watch you with my own eyeballs. And it's very,
See you in action,
yeah.
live and in the flesh. Yeah.
I'm a little kid who really loves to play pretend, and
Right.
that I think that's what can keep you going in this industry is like as long as you don't lose that, you'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of funny how you talked about the set is just kind of a back lot, doesn't look like anything special, and you walk in and suddenly you're in outer space.
Yeah,
I was talking to little Ricky from I Love Lucy, and he was talking about, he had stolen him and Ron Howard when he
yeah,
was on the Andy Griffith show, stole some bicycles and rode through the Star Trek set. I was like, what?
yeah,
There's so many things that happened in that little thing. Ron Howard, Andy Griffith show, I Love Lucy, Star Trek set. I mean, it was awesome. But yeah, it is. It's very different. The life, the set life, and all that from what people imagine. It's
totally.
not like Disney. It's kind of the back lot, the back end of
Yeah,
Disney that nobody else sees.
yeah. I mean, I've gotten to shoot on a studio lot twice, and just walking through those gates, like that's a dream come true
That's
moment.
that's a moment. Yeah.
As small as it is, it's like, man, that's a big number on that door. I'm on stage 4. Great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome when you have those moments, and I was talking to somebody else on another episode, and we were just talking about those hyper awareness moments that
Yeah,
we sometimes have, and I think we also miss them. I think we sometimes just kind of exist through life instead of living through it,
yeah,
and we don't take those hyper awareness moments to just like really absorb everything, the sights, the smells, the tastes, the everything of that moment. We don't absorb everything of that moment to make it as in a heart impression and a mind impression as it could be.
yeah.
And for you, it seemed like walking onto that set the first time, you were like like in the moment, like
Oh yeah,
this is it, this is what the dreams were about.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a flashback to getting in the car and driving through all of Texas to finally get to California. Like this is what you moved here for. So
Yeah. So with some of the roles that you've played, and I think you bringing up Seth is a perfect segue to something. Not only do you do acting, and you mentioned that Jim Carrey is a huge influence, and I think we got to see some of those expressions and some of that the comedic style that you have about you in that. With the roles that you've played, you also do impressions. Have you got to use any of that in any roles? Or is that kind of a voiceover thing that's been say that you do, or where does
yeah,
that play into what you've been doing?
it's been a a skipping stone of a talent that kind of grew up naturally that I didn't realize not everybody could do.
Yeah.
You watch Jim Carrey like make the Jack Nicholson eyebrows, and you're like, well, everybody
Yeah.
can make eyebrows. No, not everybody can.
No, no, I can't
Uh,
move. I can't do the one eyebrow thing. Like my wife could totally do. Yeah, see, can't do
yeah,
that. Mine just move in sync because I guess I have
sure.
the Neanderthal brow or whatever it is.
The Aussie brow. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's really fun, and I booked one gig where I had to do like a Matthew Perry um, sound alike for some commercial spec, and that was really special because he's another one of my favorites who God rest.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I've used it more on stage, getting to sort of uh, put it into some different performances, but I haven't had the opportunity to use it on film yet. So hopefully
Right.
one.
So the roles you've been doing haven't been necessarily character pieces. They've been
Yeah,
more like the person that the lead will react to, or that would give the lead information that is critical for the moving of the plot or whatever, right?
totally. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm the pilot, the doctor, the bartender, the nurse, the cop. It's all of those guys who just like keep it moving, keep it moving. The important part
Have
of
you
the
had to
role.
fight your accent? Have you had to fight
Yes,
your accent on that? Yeah.
sometimes I get in trouble usually in the makeup chair because I'll start saying yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And they're like, ma'am, I'm
Ma'am.
40.
Yeah.
Where are you going, man? I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm from New Orleans. It comes out. Um,
Yeah, yeah. So and that transition of talking about Seth and talking about some of your impressions that you've done, I want
yeah,
to give you a little bit of a challenge. I want to do some micro impressions, and so micro impressions are where you do somebody, and it's not in their usual the usual thing that they do. Because people that do impressions, they usually do the standard, Matthew McConaughey, hey, all right, all right, all right.
right.
They kind of have their standard script, a part of a script that they do. And it's like, that's good. But can you do that same person doing something that they don't usually do, or maybe you haven't seen them do? And so I've got a couple that I've come up with
All right.
that I'd like for you to do if
I
you're
will
ready for
certainly try.
this. All right. So the first one is Christopher Walken. And I want to see if you could do Christopher Walken
Okay.
struggling to open a jar of pickles.
All right. You gotta there's a ramp up to Christopher Walken, so you gotta build it in. Ah, ah, okay. Ah, yeah, yeah. I'll be out. Oh, ah, tricky little thing. Ah, oh, the dill. That's the problem. The gherkins are much easier, much easier. I loosened it for you. Let me know.
I love it. And from impressionists, I've always heard that they've got a key phrase or a key sound
Yeah.
that they have to first say or get to that puts them in that voice thing. And so
You have to
I
rewatch it
saw
in
they
your mind and be like, oh yeah, that's what they do.
right, yeah. Where is the voice coming from in my face, right? To do
Yeah.
that person. So all right, next one.
Christopher
That was
Walken is
awesome.
just like it's like in the back of your ears. He's just,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. Yeah, and his I've seen him, impressionists also have where they transition from one character to another, and it's such a minor variation
yeah.
of moving from one to the other. All right, next one, Patrick Warburton,
Uh,
trying to be nice about a bad tasting meal.
yeah, yeah. Hey, Peter, thanks so much for having us over. The chicken was delicious. It was tuna. It's like the chicken of the sea then. Yeah. No, it's great. Was that cinnamon? Oh, oh, it was salt. Okay. Well, we should do this again sometime. Thanks a lot.
Love it. That's awesome. All right, the final one, and this one's totally different. This is Goofy, and
No.
Goofy, yeah, Goofy is having trouble with Siri understanding him.
Yours. Hey, Siri, what's the weather like in Tomorrowland? Hey, Siri. Hey, Siri. Gosh darn it. I'll just go outside and see myself.
That's awesome. I've had similar issues with Siri. Siri doesn't always fully understand me. That was fantastic, man. Round of
Thank you.
applause. Sound effects. Maybe throw them in later in post. That was fantastic. So when it comes to doing impressions,
Yeah,
you know, do you like? Not everybody can do them, like because you've got to be able to not only hear the notes of a voice, but then
right.
also be able to like control your body to do it. Do you sing? Like what gives you the ability to do that when other people they say, hey, I've got a really great impression of this person, it's like they sound nothing like them, like in
Yeah.
their head they totally sound like them, but when it comes out it doesn't. Do you sing? Are you musical? Like where does that come from?
I sing a bit. I don't consider myself a professional singer, but I
Yeah.
do. I sing a lot, especially in the car. I think for me, it's really just repetition. There's also there's a certain range that I have. Like I can kind of reach Mickey Mouse. It's up there, like oh, oh, but it's like really in this falsetto. Ha, ha.
Yeah.
Patrick Warburton is easier in the morning because he's all down here. It's nice and
Yeah.
mellow. I think it's a lot of playback. Honestly, uh, I was talking about during the pandemic in that time where I didn't know what I was going to do. I made a couple of impression videos of mismatched sort of quotes like that, and the final cut made the clip really nice, but there's hours of footage that did not make the
On
cut.
the
It's
cutting
like,
room floor, yeah.
that doesn't sound like James Spader. So, um, I can be a little self-critical when it comes to the impressions, but it's a fun party trick. It's like really, it's a interesting, fun thing to be able to do. I'm
Yeah.
lucky, there's a higher echelon of impressionists out there who have made careers out of this. For me,
Right,
it's
right.
like, yeah, I can do that thing too.
Right. Now, are you wanting more of those kind of roles? Are those the kind of stuff that you like, where you do voices? Where like, do you do voices as well? Impressions? Like, what is that range of things that you do that are outside of pilot, doctor, policeman? Like,
Yeah,
when it comes to voices and characters.
totally. I would love to, honestly, like, because like I've said a couple of times, I grew up watching the greats, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, all of these guys, Nathan Lane, they're huge comic character actors. And then I think I read more of the drier, man in military. So I'm hoping I can find a nice middle ground and maybe land somewhere around like Leslie Nielsen or something in my career.
Right, right.
The guy
Surely you
who
can't
can
be serious.
surely, um, that's the hope.
Yeah.
A lot of building your career is knowing that you don't yet have the weight to throw around and be like, well, this is the
Right,
role I want. Um,
right.
I think making my own material like those impression videos, that was a really nice
Yeah,
outlet. Like
Those are
have
awesome.
somewhere, yeah, like have somewhere to put it. And if more ideas come down the line, great. But like at least I have that, and I
Right.
can look back and be like, oh yeah, I put it out there, and people liked it, so that's wonderful.
Yeah. So what would be your ultimate role? Like what do you want to do in your time there in Hollywood land?
I mean, I would love to get on a sitcom, a comic sitcom, a la anything. I'll take it. Um,
Anything recurring with a steady
yeah,
income, yes.
I mean, yeah, that's the dream, is to just keep building up bigger and better.
Yeah.
I don't know what's waiting for me, but I do think that something is, and you have to
Yeah.
have that sort of blind hope and ambition of like, okay, something's coming around, and you just gotta,
Yeah.
the people who make it in this town are not necessarily always the best or the most talented or the most good looking. It's just the ones who stuck around long enough until
Right.
their opportunity came. Um,
Right.
as far as roles I'd love to do, I've always had a liking to Max Bialystock from the producers. I would love to do that one
Oh,
role.
yeah.
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 So that's up there. And the dentist from Little Shop. I think that's a really fun one.
So, with the with the wanting to do more of that, what's a TV show right now that you're like, man, that's a great ensemble cast that I would
Oh man.
absolutely love to be a part of?
I mean, they're not funny, but The Diplomat, starring Kerry
Hmm.
Russell on Netflix, that show is so good. I was a huge West Wing nut when that was on.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Bradley Whitford just stealing every scene he can. Um, I love that. I mean, just fast paced and like great
Yeah.
dialogue. High stakes, but it has moments of levity. I mean, you know, it, I'm just hoping for more well-built shows that I just get to be a part of. I
Yeah.
skimmed off the surface of Yellowstone, which my dad was so happy about. I was like, Dad, I'm a bartender. I make a martini. That's it. But
Yeah.
he was so excited about it. Yeah, like really any of those great ensembles, even like the
Right.
medical dramas. We're rewatching The Resident right now. That's a
Hmm.
really fun one. Um, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there.
So, out of the actors that you've worked with, you
Mhm.
mentioned several shows that you've been on, so, ones that everybody recognizes the names of.
Yeah.
What's been your most surprising engagement with somebody that's kind of attained the place that you want to be? What's been a time that you've met somebody and it's really stood out to you?
Um, back when I was in New Orleans, I got to do a film called Get Hard, where I was
Hmm.
in like sort of one of the opening credits scenes, starring Will Ferrell, and so I got to shoot with him one day. And I grew up as a kid of the '90s, so like he was my SNL Will Ferrell, like
Yeah.
that's that
Right.
manic energy. He's Elf. He's everything. He's Will Ferrell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And so getting to meet him in person, and he's so calm and kind and sincere. And I was just like, man, like he turns it on when he has to.
Yeah.
But he was so kind to everybody on that set, no matter who they were or where they
Right.
were. Seeing that sort of presence and reputation on display was really cool. And I think that's something that I carry with me from then is like every set you're on, no matter what, be kind. You're all in it together. No one's better than anyone else.
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's the most like affecting one that I've had.
Well, and I think it creates an atmosphere too that allows you to be at your best. If there's a
Absolutely.
tension, if there's a, prima donna type thing, it just adds a level of tension that you then got to try and kind of wash off to then perform, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I think I've seen a lot of actors that are kind of like that. You think they're these wild and crazy on all the time.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey, he's just all, and I think he even talked about that Jim Carrey was a character that he
Yeah.
created, that was not him. And he got tired of it and eventually
Right.
stopped being Jim
Yeah.
Carrey,
Yeah.
because that was not who he was. That was the expectation. And so it sounds like, with Will Ferrell, it was a similar experience where, he when had to turn it on, he turned it on when he was not having to be this character that he was a totally different person.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, that's a good point. As I think I always also used to be on a lot more than I am now. I've relaxed in my
Yeah.
mid to late 30s. Because I think you start to have a little bit of a retrospect, and you find gratitude, yes, for the jobs that come along and the opportunities that you get, but you start to find more gratitude in your daily life. And that's been
Yeah.
a real blessing for me. Um, Speaking of Jim Carrey, yeah, I was trying to think of quotes because you had asked when you initially reached out if there's something that stuck out to you, and I think he was giving some commencement speech or something maybe 10 years ago or so, and he was telling the story about his father who had dreams of being a musician and a performer, but he took the safe route and became an accountant or something that he didn't really have a passion for. And about 5 years from retirement, the company folded and he got canned and he had to start all over again. And he was
Mhm.
saying, you can fail at what you don't want to do, so you may as well take a chance on something that you love. And
Oh,
that's a
wow.
quote that it's always stuck with me, as much as of a crapshoot as this life and being an actor and performer is. Like, there are no guarantees. You ask me,
Yeah.
what's my next thing, what's my dreams, like it's whatever comes. Like, I have to be open to it. um
Yeah.
and there's something freeing about that, I think, to know that you're living your life to your fullest potential is really, really nice.
Right. And also not waiting until a certain point in your life to start checking stuff off a list, a bucket
Yeah.
list, and I think people have said it correctly that regret is one of the toughest things, to live with is. And so, by checking things off and saying, you know what, I'm a young guy from New Orleans. I'm going to take a big step and move out to Hollywood and not ever have to look back and say, well, what if,
Right.
what if I left, what if I never left? What would that be? And what if I left and something happened of it? And so, kudos to you for taking that big step. You've been there 7 years. You've got to work on some great projects, and I believe a lot more are ahead for you. And
Thank
I'm
you.
excited for you. What is the next thing that we're going to see you in, or what's the next thing that you're going to be a part of that we can expect?
Well, for now, I'm just trudging along in the design world because the industry, as you know, has been at a standstill with all of the strikes and negotiations
Right.
and AI. Like, I feel like there's a bit of a spinning top that everyone's just waiting for the merry-go-round to slow down before we can all get back on. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm getting emails from agents here in Louisiana, everywhere, saying that, like, it's slow, nothing's
Yeah.
happening now. And it's a nature of the industry. About every decade or
Right.
so, there's an ebb and flow. So I'm
Right.
gonna ride it out is my plan right now.
Yeah.
Whatever audition comes in, I'll be turning that in. I've got acting class every Monday night, and then Monday through Friday I'm a designer, and that's okay for me.
Awesome. Well, so how can people get a hold of you if somebody wants to get some design work done? What is your ideal audience? Who are you looking for to help with their design needs?
Yeah. So anyone can go to my website, chrismarroy.com, and I've essentially broken it in half. There's the actor version and the artist version of me. And under the art page, you'll be able to see sort of my style. I'm not afraid of color. I do a lot of poster work and logo design and things like that, T-shirt designs, which I started doing back in New Orleans. I've got a great love for old-fashioned 2D hand-drawn animation in the age of AI, which is impressive, albeit sometimes scary. I
Yeah.
think I think there's something classic and everlasting about just lines on a page. So that's my main style, and anyone who wants to play, I'm open to it. reach
Well,
out and
be
say.
sure to reach out to Chris. I'll have the link in the show notes as well. Check out his work. Check out his videos, his impression stuff, his reels of the cool stuff he's got to work on. And thank you very much, Chris, for coming on. This has been a great conversation, and I
Thank you.
appreciate you taking time to do this.
It's my pleasure. It's really good to see you again, Paul.
All right, have a great one, and don't forget, everybody. One great idea can change everything, and so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of value in what you've gotten from listening to this episode. And so take action on it. Ideas are worthless without action, and so just like Chris took action on a dream, brought him to a place that he's at. If you hear a great idea, ideas are worthless, and they're everything. And so take action on an idea and see your dreams come true. Thank you, Chris. Have a good one.
Thank you.